Okay, I want to talk to you about the neurodivergent friend meets the narcissistic friend. And a lot of times you can see this happening when, kids are in school, like you have middle school, high school, even college. And a lot of times when kids are growing up and they're like in their teenage years, this is where you see this happening a lot more because the neurodivergent friend is young. You guys are going through puberty. They are not really, fully understanding everything that's going on, not fully socially aware. And a lot of friends that the neurodivergent person tends to have are fake friends. So they don't really know what it's like to have a real friend because they never really had real friends. They just had, narcissists, manipulators, just mean kids that were friends with the neurodivergent out of pity. And certain things that can happen is where you can have like, for example, when I was in middle school, I had this friend that she would come up to me and talk about, oh, these kids were talking about you. They were saying this about you. They were saying that about you. And then I would always ask her, okay, well, who are these people that said this to me? She could never tell me who these kids were, but she always would tell me what they said, but couldn't tell me who was saying it. So in that sense, what that is saying is that basically it's either she herself is the one that's saying all of these things, but wasn't bold enough to admit it. So then what she did instead is she's like, okay, well, I'm going to just pretend that someone else is saying it so that I don't have to take all of this heat. Next, what you have is when I was in high school, I had this one friend who she was like, and this is when you have like that narcissist friend that is very like a spoiled brat. Like they are spoiled rotten. Like they are the golden child of their family. They get everything they want. They have everything they need. And their parents haven't really taught them how to be a good person, how to have empathy, how to have compassion for others. So what they do is they befriend people to have like a second banana, to have a sidekick, to have some sort of flunky, because it's going to make them feel better. They need to have that self-esteem boost. And these are the people that are not very genuine. These are the mean girls that pretend. You see this a lot in female friendships. Like these are the mean girls that pretend to be nice and pretend to be the neurodivergent's friend when the whole entire time they are making fun of this friend. They are being mean to them. They are sabotaging them. They are I'm sorry about the dogs, I'm outside. They are setting this friend up for failure. They use this friend to take advantage of this friend, and they have no intention on treating them well and respecting them. Like basically the narcissist befriends the neurodivergent and they only spend time with them and hang out with them and talk to them when it's convenient for them. So you have this narcissistic friend. They hang with the neurodivergent when they don't have anybody else. When that narcissistic friend doesn't have anybody else to hang with, nobody else to talk to. So they're like, okay, well, you know what? This is the last resort. I'm going to go ahead and just talk to you. Or other things that they'll do is they won't like call this friend to talk, like just to like shoot the bobos and just talk to them. Like, you know how you can, when like, you know how girlfriends, they get on the phone with their friends and they just talk about life, just talk about a lot of things. Yeah. You don't get this with the narcissist and the neurodivergent friend. The narcissist doesn't call their neurodivergent friend in order to shoot the bobos and have a good time. No, they only call this friend when the narcissistic friend needs to vent. Or if they're mad, like they'll call them up and say, hey, so I'm mad and I'm mad at this and I need to vent. Or they'll call you up and say, hey, I'm bored. So what are you doing? Like they pretty much use the friend as a source of entertainment, as a source of, being a therapist, someone that's going to easily listen to them, someone that they can just dump their problems on. So they don't have any intention of being a friend to the neurodivergent friend, but they want the neurodivergent to be their friend and they don't have intention of reciprocating. You'll also see moments where the narcissist is very rude and disrespectful to the neurodivergent friend and has no remorse. For example, when I was in high school, I was in the band program, right? And we would have moments where our band practices on Saturday would go from like 8:30 in the morning to like 5:30 in the evening, right? And we would get like an hour break for lunch at noon. So there was this one day where I was in band practice, and I'm the neurodivergent, and I had this narcissistic friend. She was a girlfriend of mine. And basically what happened is it was raining this one day, and a lot of kids have cars, some kids walk, but I had pretty much had called my mom, and I'm like, hey, could you come up here and like, take us to McDonald's? My mother rarely would ever do that, but that one particular Saturday she came up there. And while me and a couple of other friends were going to ride in the car with me because they asked to come with me, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like my mom, we live 10 minutes away, so we got to wait a little bit. So she gets here. So then what happens is my narcissistic friend, she basically, like she lived about 5 minutes like up the street away from the school. And she was very spoiled rotten, a spoiled fucking brat. And her parent, like her stepdad, was going to come and bring her some food, her lunch, up to the school so she didn't have to go anywhere because it was raining. But my narcissistic friend, she was all about popularity, all about just being in some guy's face. So there was this one guy that she was kind of like flirting with, and always like this one guy she was talking to / dating, and she was going to ride in the car with him to go with him to go get some food. She didn't have to go with him, but she chose to go. And what she was doing is, as I'm waiting by the band hall door, just like waiting to see when my mom pulls up, this friend of mine, she walks out with the guy that she's with, and she goes, Terry, get my food. My stepdaddy on his way. Get my food for me. She didn't ask me to do it. She didn't say, hey, can you get my food? Just get my food. And then she just walks off. So basically, she was supposed to wait until her parent got up there to get the food, but she wanted to do what she wants to do. And she just had me just kind of like do this favor for her. She didn't ask. She just demanded. That's another red flag. When you're dealing with narcissistic people, they don't ask, they demand. Then what happens is her stepdad pulls up, and I see the car. So I go out there and I say, hey, she wanted me to get the food for her. So I grab the food and I set the food in my band hall locker. So then what happens is the girl calls me a few minutes later, and she has a whole attitude. She's like, basically, I answer the phone, and what was pissing me off is halfway of her being on the phone with me, she's basically like, it's loud in the background. She's talking to other people in the background, so she can barely hear what I'm saying, barely even hear anything, and she's hearing what she wants to hear, and she was just being just a spoiled brat, just being ridiculous. So basically what she did is she's like, gets on the phone and goes, Terry, did you get my food? I'm like, yes, I have your food. Yo said, baby, just dropped it off. And she, okay, well, where is it? I set your food in my locker. She didn't, because it was so loud, she didn't hear me fully. So she goes, don't set the food on the floor, Terry. I'm like, I didn't say that I set it on the floor, girl. I said that I set it in my locker. And she's, what? I can't hear you. I'm like, I said I set it in my locker. And she's like, Terry, listen, I got my food and you can have some, but take my food off of the floor and put it in my locker. And I'm like, girl, I told you your food is not on the floor. Your food is inside of my locker. She's just put it in my locker. I'm like, fine, I'll put it in your locker. And then she says something else, and I go, wait, what? What did you say? And she's, never mind, I'll be back later. Like, and then she's like, just set my food in my locker. Do you understand? Trying to like infantize me and trying to like little bro me or whatever the case was. Just being a spoiled fucking brat. And then to add insult to injury, like after she hangs up the phone on me, she gets back, to the band hall, minutes later, maybe like 20 minutes later. And then I go give her food. But let me tell you, the bitch did not say thank you. She didn't say a single word to me. I gave her the food. She just looks at me, grabs the food, and walks off. Not a thank you, not a I'm sorry for giving you attitude, none of that shit. Because a lot of these narcissistic people, are spoiled fucking brats, and they want to have neurodivergent friends just so that they can be a bitch and not have anyone say anything to them. So if you ever had a friend like that, you were dealing with a narcissist, and that person was never your fucking